Good evening to you, and thank you for tuning in to Newswatch this evening. Thank you for joining us on the program tonight. My name is Tiffany Wamboy. Our sign language interpreter for today is Boniface Muredi. Now, just to all our viewers, you can reach us on our WhatsApp line, which is 0708222323, and our SMS line is 22232. We have a lot lined up for you on tonight's program in top stories making headlines. And on to our first story. President William Ruto has urged all Kenyans to submit to the rule of law of the land and saying that no one is above the law. Speaking in Berlin when he met Kenyan nationals residing in Germany, President Ruto stated that security officers have been equipped with all that they need to ensure the lives of Kenyans are protected. Separately, the head of state affirmed his government's commitment to ensuring the involvement and inclusion of members of the diaspora who form a critical part of the economy. He further noted that Kenya is holding talks with Germany to eliminate barriers of bureaucracies and ensure utilization of human capital.
Some of you are concerned about what's going on in Nairobi, what's going on in Kisumu. Let me promise you that we are going to take care of that situation. Kenya is a country of the rule of law, all right? And as responsible citizens, and as president, I will ensure that everybody's property, it is my duty, everybody's property, everybody's business, everybody's hustle is protected, and the lives of the people of Kenya are protected. It is the duty of the police. My administration will make the resources necessary, the policy decisions necessary for the police to execute their mandate in accordance with the law and the Constitution. And when I took office, I undertook that we are going to make the criminal justice system work for all Kenyans. And I did the deliberate thing to delineate the police from the office of the president. The Constitution says the police will have not just operational independence, it must also have financial independence. For a very long time, the financial independence of the police was undermined because it was under the office of the president. I did sign the executive order that transferred the financial resources from the office of the president to that of the Inspector General of Police. Today, the Inspector General of Police is solely responsible for both the operations and the financial requirements of the police force, and they can make independent decisions on what they want to do to secure the country.
And also on to top stories for today. Business owners from Kibra have been adversely affected as they incurred huge losses following yesterday's incident where property was destroyed by a fire shortly after the Azimio-led protests in the area. The business owners whose premises were razed down have further lamented over the looting over their properties when the fire broke out. Their sentiments have been echoed by matatu operators from the Travelers and Embasava circles who have equally decried losses of 12 million shillings and 20 million Kenya shillings, respectively.
That we are not a political circle. Ours is to ferry our customers wherever they are going, and even concerning this particular accusation, we want to bring to the attention of the nation and the people that we never took part in any way concerning the ferrying of, let me call them goons, to go and instruct any meeting. Ours is to transport our customers, and so even whatever our colleagues have said, that we are part of the people that we are ferrying goons to whatever political meeting that is a riot. I want also to say that according to our circle, we have very good mechanism to apply discipline. And so anybody who is gotten doing such kind of things, we take very stern measures. And so even concerning what was alleged on Sunday, we never took part. Even on Monday, we never took part, even the previous time. I also want to say the same, that we also lost like 20 million during those demonstrations, coming to 40 the 2 days. And so like our colleagues are saying, we would want to urge our dear president and late Honorable Raila Odinga, that they are brothers. In fact, we have always said and heard, 2007 they were together. These are the men that can sit down and look for an amicable solution as to what is happening, because all of us, we are Kenyans, and look for amicable of even solving our situations and our problems. So ours is to request, kindly consider that people that are suffering, we are the people, we are in business. Like us, we are a circle that is managed by cooperative, meet of cooperative and society. We give loans. There are so many people of us who have loans, and when there's kind of things, they are not able to pay their loans effectively. They default. So we are requesting that if the government and the opposition would sit down and have a way of sorting out the problems, we who are business people, we shall have it very well to do our business in a very conducive position. And so we urge them, kindly consider us as the people that are doing business, that every other time we are losing a lot of money. So we want to refute that fact that we never took part, neither are willing to take any part, because we are not a political circle. He has said we have various members of the different divide in our circle. We have Ruos, we have Kikuyus, we have Kizis, we have Kambas. Ours is a face of Kenya.
Now, in the same breath, the Presbyterian Church of East Africa, that is PCEA in Kenya, has strongly condemned last night's violence that resulted in the burning of a section of the PCEA church in Kibra and stalls at a mosque in the same area. Now, led by the PCEA moderator, Reverend Dr. Thegu Mutahi, the church says that Monday night's heinous act is unfortunate and called on the government security agencies to probe and bring to book all the perpetrators who have caused damages to properties. And as Gloria Musimbi reports, Amnesty International castigated the security personnel for the slow response to the issue. A day after the opposition Azimio led Kenyans in the second anti-government protest called by the Azimio La Umoja One Kenya coalition, religious leaders have warned against the chaos and targeting of places of worship, as witnessed Monday in Kibra, Nairobi during protests called by the opposition. Among the properties burnt and destroyed were kiosks and small businesses along Karanja Road, PCEA Emmanuel Church, residentials and a van inside the church premises, and an attempt to burn down a mosque. Addressing the press, PCEA moderator Reverend Dr. Thegu Mutahi called on the security agencies to probe and bring to book the perpetrators.
Tunataka kusema kwamba tungetaka waliotenda kitendo hicho watubu mbele ya Mungu, kwa sababu Mungu anamsamaha. Twajua serikali inapaswa kuchukua hatua zake za kutafuta waliotenda uhalifu, lakini sisi tunataka kuwakabidhi hawa kwa Mungu, apate kuwaona, apate kuwasamehe, na sisi tutakuwa tumewasamehe. Hatuna kisasi. Ingawa tumepata hasara kubwa ukizunguka hapa, lakini hatuna kisasi, kwa sababu kanisa haikuwa yetu. Ili kanisa ni ya Mungu.
The chairperson of the Supreme Council of Kenya Muslims, Sheikh Al-Haji Olenado, said Kibra residents had for long lived peacefully and that politics should not divide them.
Always the strength upon which we have always faced challenges and tribulations in our long years of brotherly coexistence. Christians and Muslims have never been enemies. We live in the same neighborhoods, our children play together, and some attend the same schools. And we go to the same hospitals. They breathe the same air given freely by God the Almighty. It is for these reasons that as religious leaders, we are deeply pained and regret the unfolding, sprawling incidences of violence linked to the nationwide protest called by the Azimio One Kenya coalition.
Human rights groups led by Amnesty International Kenya Executive Director Irungu Houghton addressed the press in Kibra, where he said Kenya has a constitutional framework that must be followed during such protests. This even as it emerged that several people might have died during the incident.
These are not buildings. They are places of worship, and they are sacred places of God and Allah. Can we ask, is it too much to ask the Muslims to cross that river and help Christians rebuild their church? Can we ask the Christians to cross that river and rebuild the mosque? And if you do that, the human rights organizations, I pledge, we will come personally to help you rebuild your places of worship and to restore dignity and the right to worship for this area.
As stated by NCIC Commissioner Danvas Makori, the National Cohesion and Integration Commission NCIC condemned the destruction of the properties during demonstrations, saying it was unacceptable.
We condemn that strongly, and ours is to pledge to work closely with RCK, with the community elders in Kibra, the youth leaders in Kibra, to make sure peace is set first.
Kilimani Sub-County Police Commander Andrew Mbogo said police will continue with their mandate to protect lives and urge Kibra residents to peacefully coexist.
We ask the community, people living in Kibra, you have been living together for a long time, you know one another, and we'll continue ensuring that we perform our mandate of ensuring that there is protection, safety of lives and property.
It is an incident that has left many businesses adversely affected and incurring many losses, with the big question remaining to be who is to blame and amidst the blame game. When will things come to normalcy? Gloria Musimbi, Hope TV Newswatch.
All right, imitating with that same speed, Azimio la Umoja leader Raila'S has condemned the invasion of the Northlands firm belonging to the Kenyatta family by goons on Monday. The goons made away with some livestock and cut down some trees, setting them on fire. This as police today arrived at the firm located in Ruto along the Eastern Bypass. Addressing the press, Odinga accused President William Ruto and his deputy Rigathi Gachagua of being behind the attacks. Dolly Murigimbuvi now reports.
After the Monday raid on the Northlands farm belonging to the family of former President Uhuru Kenyatta by unknown people, the police were on Tuesday sent to the area. Dozens of unknown people had descended on the vast farm with power saws and cut down some trees. They also destroyed some property during the Monday incident as the Azimio protests kicked off in various parts of the country. The gang also escaped with an unknown number of livestock, mostly sheep, from the farm. According to some residents, the uncalled for incident was both being investigated.
Sisi tunasema na ninakemea hii kitendo, wale vijana walitumiwa kuiba pesa, kuiba mali ya marehemu wa Kenyatta, kwa sababu hii si mali, hata kama ni mali ya Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, haistahili kuchezewa hivi. Ni wananchi. Kwa hivyo mimi kitu ninaanza kukemea ni wananchi, tuanze kutumiwa vibaya, tuanze kuchezewa haki zetu. Hawa watu vita itaanza kutokea, wapande ndege waende ngambo zingine.
We are calling to all Mount Kenya leaders. Let's focus on where we are going. Let's focus on the future of our children. The battle that is here today, the political battle that we are experiencing right now, is a battle of separating the Mount Kenya leadership.
Jana shamba ya former president anavamiwa, sisi sijasikia mzuri. Imebidi nimetoka all along from Nairobi, nimekuja kuona na macho. Niliona vijana wenye walitumiwa vibaya. I really condemn that. Vijana tukue wajanja kabisa, tuache kutumiwa na wanasiasa.
The opposition leader Raila'S and some Azimio leaders have visited the Ruto area this evening. Speaking earlier in Nairobi, Odinga blamed President William Ruto, who is out of the country, for the attacks of the private property that happened on Monday.
No law that allows Mr. William Ruto and Mr. Rigathi Gachagua to order Kenyans to invade other people's lands and businesses in the name of quelling legitimate, peaceful, and constitutional protests. Despite Azimio supporters bending over to ensure that the protests are conducted strictly within the law, the state, under the direction of Ruto and Gachagua, did everything to ensure the protests degenerate into chaos and lead to death.
Odinga also warned that more property will be raided in future, saying that President Ruto's alleged action will re-emerge and become a threat to the property of Kenyans.
Let's make no mistake. Nobody must pretend to be safe. Anyone with any property in any part of the country has every reason to fear. Anyone with a sizable piece of land business must be very afraid. We have every reason to believe that other properties will be invaded in the coming days.
However, the Inspector General of Police, Japheth Koome, has assured that investigations are ongoing to arrest the culprits who invaded the Northlands farm together with the East Africa Spectre Limited gas factory in industry area belonging to the opposition leader. Dolly Mirikimbovi, Hope TV, Nairobi.
And the Azimio La Umoja protests have continued to elicit mixed reactions from organizations based in the country. The Law Society of Kenya and the Crime CPOA organization have separately spoken over the matter. Our reporter Whitney Akinyi brings us more.
In light to the recent weekly protests by the leaders and supporters of the Azimio La Umoja coalition and events surrounding the protest, the Law Society of Kenya says peaceful demos are enshrined in the constitution. Speaking at a press conference at the Law Society of Kenya headquarters in Nairobi, LSK President Eric Theuri echoed that it is the constitutional rights of the protesters to peacefully assemble, demonstrate, picket and present their petitions to the public in full security from the police.
The recurrent violations of the right to peaceful assembly have been spotlighted, including excessive use of force by police during protests, the failure to protect journalists who are covering the protest by the police, unlawful killings, failure by the police to use de-escalation tactics, arbitrary arrest, and the lack of accountability for these violations.
At the same time, Theuri addressed the attack on the Kenyatta's family's Northland farms on Monday, saying that the responsive action from the security forces were biased and are calling upon the police to give a statement in regards to the attack and response of the issue.
It is the duty of the police to provide security to all Kenyans, regardless of their political affiliations. The country is unsafe if the police chooses to engage in political activity, and we therefore demand a full statement from the Inspector General of Police as to the circumstances of these attacks and the response that was taken by the National Police Service to these incidences.
Meanwhile, the Crime CPOA organization has condemned the violence witnessed during the Azimio La Umoja countrywide protest, reiterating that reports of police using disproportionate force in dispersing demonstrators only escalates the situation, violates the right to peaceful assembly, and undermines democracy and the rule of law. Addressing the press in Nairobi, Crime CPOA Executive Director Peter Ouko also called upon all political leaders to refrain from using inflammatory language and instead focus on promoting dialogue and peaceful resolution to disputes.
I want to call out all rogue politicians across the divide who are spreading propaganda, propagating hate speech and incitement to violence, and in effect putting the country on a war footing, to cease and desist. Their divisive rhetoric undermines the gains already made in promoting national cohesion and unity in the country. In the same vein, we want to call out all those Kenyans using social media to propagate tribal incitement, hate speech, and disinformation to act responsibly while on those platforms and put the interest and lives of Kenyans first.
Reporting for Hope TV Newswatch, I'm Whitney Akinyi.
All right, we take our first short break here on Newswatch. However, do stay tuned. We have these and more updates coming up next.
Every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Spotlight.
Do you feel that they are in a place where they can effect a Barack Obama moment?
When you hear the word of God and you hear Jesus is speaking.
Real talk on real issues.
You know, the Bible says faith without works is dead.
The truth of the gospel that will survive the time is not a health and wealth gospel.
When there is time to harmonize and bring one composite amendment.
With idealistic, thought-provoking guests.
So people come to be serviced, to be encouraged, to be empowered.
when the storm is over, you desire the closeness you have with God.
Hosted by Reverend Edward Furi. Hope TV is now available on GoTV Channel 103, Zuku Channel 873, Signet Channel 817, and Star Times Channel 026. Enjoy our uplifting content and family-friendly programming anytime. Hope TV, you look and live.
Welcome back to Newswatch. Now, the Director of Public Prosecutions, that is DPP Nordin Haji, has directed the Inspector General of Police Japheth Koome to launch investigations into the Azimio protest hooliganism. He says he will pursue the financiers and perpetrators of the criminal acts of violence and vandalism which rocked the Azimio protests on Monday. In a letter addressed to the Inspector General of Police, DPP Haji has directed the IG to launch comprehensive investigations to unearth all who were involved in planning and funding the protests. Haji further directed the National Police Service to submit the findings within the next 14 days. In the letter, and I quote, reference is made to the social and mainstream media reports on the alleged loss of lives, acts of violence, destruction of property, arson, stealing, among other offences during the demonstrations, which is contrary to the Penal Code Chapter 63. And I quote again, we refer further to incidents of incitement and ethnic contempt of social media platforms, contrary to Article 33 of the Constitution of Kenya, the National Cohesion and Integration Act of 2008, and the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act of 2018. And even as Interior Cabinet Secretary Professor Kithure Kindiki remains silent over the attack on the Kenyatta farm and the Spectre East Africa Gas Company on Monday, ICT Cabinet Secretary Eliud Owalo has come out to defend the government. While addressing the press in Nairobi, Owalo criticized the opposition protests and vowed that the government will strongly protect the lives and property of each and every Kenyan.
The current demonstrations that we have been witnessing is not informed by the concern about the cost of living, but it is largely influenced by the fact that a section of the political class, to date, despite having exhausted all the legal mechanisms through which election disputes can be alleviated, still are not convinced that they are out of government. While we accept and recognize the fact that our Article 37 of the Kenyan Constitution, our 2010 constitutional dispensation, allows for demonstrations and picketing, the position of government is that such demonstrations and picketing must be exercised or undertaken within the confines of the law. And those confines of the law, or the ambit of the law, is clear that picketing and demonstrations should not lead to destruction of people's property. It should be done in a peaceful manner.
And elsewhere in matters aside politics, the Inspector General of Police Japheth Koome has embarked on a two-day fact-finding security inspection of the standard gauge railway, that is SGR, from Nairobi to Mombasa. Koome is leading the inspection team consisting of the Embassy of the People's Republic of China in the Republic of Kenya, the National Police Service, the Kenya Railways Corporation, and Africa Star Railway Operation Company. In a statement, the NPS said the trip intends to identify the external risks along the SGR as well as analyze and discover the deep conflicts and causes behind the risks, as well as achieve consensus among all parties to rectify the risks and improve the risk management system and find a long-term effective mechanism to address the situation. Elsewhere, the county government of Narok has completed a 71 million shilling water project, providing the much-needed relief to residents in Suswa ward in Narok East sub-county. The project involved pumping water from the dry port in Naivasha to Suswa ward and the installation of underground pipes to distribute water to the residents. Speaking during the launch, Governor Patrick Ntutu said the implementation of the water project is in line with County Integrated Development Plan, as Suswa residents had prioritized availability of water during the public participation forums. According to the area member of the County Assembly, Nixon Kisotu, access to clean and safe water will boost the pastoralist community residing in the area.
Tunataka kutoa hiyo maji ili tuangalie hizi pipe zote, tuhakikisha ya kwamba hizo areas ya Narasha, Ngorienito, Irkiragarian, hiyo area yote tuweze kupata hiyo maji, pia hiyo ikuje isaidie wale wananchi. Na pia nieleze tu nyinyi ya kwamba hii maji ambayo tumeletea wananchi hapa, tunataka kusukuma ipite kwa hii shule yetu ya wasichana wapate maji, iingie kwa hospitali, iende mpaka duka moja. Pia Irkiragarian tumeweka 6 million. Ndivosa unaona kwa hii ward yenyewe ya Suswa tumeweka milioni 83 tuhakikisha ya kwamba watu ya Suswa hawatalia tena mambo ya maji.
Tulikuwa hapo mbeleni hatukuwahi kuwa na maji since mimi kuzaliwa, hiyo miaka yote sijaiona maji. Tumeishi tukua watoto wadogo, tukienda mbali kilomita hata 50. Unaenda na maji kwa mgongo, umebeba mtoto, umebeba kuni, umepeleka ng'ombe, umepeleka mbuzi, na hata ile unaenda kilomita mingi bado upati maji. Sisi leo watu wa Suswa, eneo la Suswa katika nchi ya Kenya, sisi ndio tunasema Mungu ametukumbuka. Hii ndio siku yetu ya leo. Katika historia ya Kenya, watu wengi wanasherekeanga maji, siku ya maji duniani, na wako na maji. Sasa kama kuna watu ambaye wanafaa kutambua siku ya maji duniani, ni sisi watu wa Suswa.
Kumekuwa na kiangazi kubwa, watu wanaumia juu ya maji, na siku ya leo kupitia uhusiano wetu mwema wa governor na mimi nikiwa MCA wa Suswa ward ndio tumeweza kupata hii maji. Na nashukuru pia wakaaji wa Suswa kwa sababu waliweza kunichagua, wakachagua governor, wakachagua mbunge. Mimi nilipitia mlengo ya Jubilee na hao wakapitia UDA. Lakini siku ya leo mabishano yetu tu ni maendeleo. Hakuna mambo ingine.
Maji aenda mashinani. Kwa sababu shida letu kabisa ni maji. Hapa ukichimba ni moto unatoka. Ukijaribu kuleta borehole moto unatoka chini. Area yetu anafaa tu tupate maji ya pipe.
And the Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife has handed over the taxidermy of northern white rhino Sudan to the National Museum. The taxidermy of the last male northern white rhino will be displayed at a central location accessible to all. The preserved animal skin and skeleton arrived in the country last Friday. The skeleton has already been handed over to the National Museum for conservation, education and awareness to residents and the international community. Sudan died at Al Pejeta in March 2018, aged 45, while undergoing treatment for age-related complications. The skin and the skeleton were transported to the Czech Republic in 2019.
Over the past months, a devastating drought has ravaged almost all parts of the country, with wildlife bearing the brunt of lack of fodder and water. Madam CS, I am happy to report that among us, the drought situation, we did not experience any rhino death from drought. The few rhino deaths that we experienced were because of territorial fights, and we are putting proposals to you, Madam, to allow us expand the rhino conservancies so that we can spread them out and continue growing the populations.
Probably there are no exact records, but the trip which Sudan went through several times is really impressive. It was already mentioned that he was born in today's South Sudan. At that time it was only Sudan. And he was brought through Uganda, Kenya, through the Atlantic Ocean to Hamburg, Germany, then by boat to then Czechoslovakia. It was a trip which lasted something like 7 months. It's unbelievable that such creatures which never before in their life experienced traveling or being somewhere outside their habitat.
Let's catch up with the business news for today. And Standard Chartered Kenya, in partnership with IB's Africa Strathmore University, have today launched the 6th cohort of the Women in Tech, that is WIT Incubator program. The program aims to champion more diversity in technology and advance entrepreneurial and leadership excellence for women-led businesses. Speaking during the launch, the Standard Chartered Head of Consumer, Private and Business Banking, Edith Chumba, said that by empowering women-led businesses in the technology space to thrive, they contribute to their business growth and drive sustainability and inclusion. Strathmore University Vice-Chancellor Dr. Vincent Ogutu, on his part, noted that the entrepreneurial and professional playing field is not level, which calls for more tools and systems that drive inclusion and equity.
Women in Tech is one of the programs under our Future Makers initiative, and one of the things we do under Future Makers is helping youth, women, and people who are disabled to make sure that they thrive in terms of learning, earning, and growing. So Women in Tech looks after one pillar, which is the entrepreneurship pillar. So you'll notice what has been happening across the world, and especially around the low-income countries. We see that entrepreneurship, especially amongst the female, is actually growing.
I really salute people who go into entrepreneurship, and especially women, because finally you're in a place where you write the rules. You at least can have an attempt at setting those targets and seeing how big your business is going to become and what it's going to do. As Strathmore, again, we're going to try and increase your chances of succeeding. Obviously, you've got that commitment, you've got that business idea, you already want to get started, but at Strathmore we increase your chances of success.
And M-Pesa Foundation has partnered with Rose Women's Foundation for a 6 million shilling economic empowerment program that will see low-income women entrepreneurs equipped with the right skills to run sustainable businesses and alleviate poverty in the long term. The program, which will benefit over 150 women in Nairobi's Dagoretti area, will facilitate trainings on micro-enterprise business skills and provide mentorship as well as access to finance to empower the women to achieve income growth and run sustainable businesses. Now, according to M-Pesa Foundation trustee John Ohaga, they seek to empower women from all over the country to enable more of them to engage in business and consequently enable them to participate in market and business decisions. On her part, the Rose Women Foundation Program and Discipleship Manager Grace Ambassa said the business skills offered to the women through the program will go a long way in transforming their businesses.
Just the kind of transformation that I've seen in the lives of other women, I can't wait to see the same transformation happening in the lives of women in Rudhimitu cohort. The business skills that we are offering to these women, example, business, finance and business training, sales and marketing. We see them making a lot of transformation in their businesses. They learn how to handle their customers. They learn how to record their books. They do bookkeeping. And through that, some of them are now seeing growth in their businesses, something that was not happening before. So we are so grateful to God and so grateful to M-Pesa Foundation for this wonderful opportunity to Rose Women's Foundation.
And we look forward to supporting Rose Women in this endeavor. Rose Women's Foundation, as we have come to learn, is a foundation dedicated to empowering women, equipping them with the entrepreneurial skills, educating them, and supporting them in their business. The M-Pesa Foundation has as one of its objectives supporting organizations such as this, which empower society in general.
Jukumu ya mimi kama mwanabiashara niangalie nikuze. Kwa mfano,
katika ule ufugaji wa kuku, ningependa kuenda zaidi na hata kufungua butchery ambaye ninafikia wateja wengi ambao nimekuwa nikiuzia customers ambao ni wholesale na pia retail kidogo, lakini wakati ninafungua biashara ya butchery nitakuwa nikifikia wateja wengi. By so doing nitaweza kufikia wengi, na pia wakati Rose Foundation wanafandi wa mama kama sisi.
And in the sports arena, Kenya's national football team Harambee Stars is in action tonight for the first time since November 2021 when they faced Rwanda in their final 2022 World Cup qualifier in Nairobi, winning 2-1. Harambee Stars is at the moment facing Iran in an international friendly match at the Azadi Stadium in Tehran. Harambee Stars head coach Engin Firat has insisted that he is not focused on getting a result against the Asian side, but rather is looking to give his players an experience of facing top teams and how to deal with the pressure that comes with it. And the Harambee Starlets 33-member provisional squad has been named ahead of the international friendly against Albania scheduled for the 11th of April in Tirana. Starlets head coach Godfrey Odor has named 16 foreign-based players and 17 who ply their trade in the domestic Kenya Women's Premier League. Some of the players who made to Odor's list include the Turkish-based trio Mwana Halima Adam, Vivian Nasaka and Phoebe Owiti, together with the Simba Queens trio Gentrix, Shikangwa, Vivian Corazon and Ruth Ingosi. Starlets are expected to face Albania in their first international after 16 months out due to the FIFA ban that was lifted in November last year. The team is expected to report to camp on Thursday ahead of the fixture. And we have come to the end of our bulletin for today. Thank you for staying tuned all the way on Newswatch. My name is Stephanie Womboy. Our sign language interpreter for today has been Boniface Mureithi. Do have a wonderful evening ahead.